This is Dick, WB2JPQ. I'm in Eden, New York. I don't say that, and people ask me where I'm from, for the new people. It's about 25 miles south of Buffalo, home of the kazoo factory. That's what we're famous for here in this little small town, little farming town. But if you've ever blown a kazoo, chances are it came from this small town of Eden, New York. I, along with Roger, KO4QMM, will be doing the TechNet tonight. Scott's on standby here in the Zoom room, and anybody else can come in and join us. We have a pretty good crew here tonight. Just welcome to come in. As always, be with us, and just please stay muted. We might talk amongst ourselves as we're running the net, but please just leave it up to the control stations that are running the net to do the talking. Love to have you come in. I've got a couple other announcements here tonight. Our Discord room is open and running well. It's ecr.radio/Discord. ecr.radio/Discord. If you'd like to join up, love to have you get in there and get signed up. Also, this Thursday night is the first Thursday of the month. We are asked to the Elmer be in Elmer at 8 o'clock in our Zoom room. It's always a great time. We have many people come in. Reset here. Come in and ask questions, from novice questions right on up to super advanced questions. We welcome everyone. We try to get let's call it the novice questions out of the way first so we don't lose anybody, and then work up to more of the technical questions. But it's for everybody, Elmers, newcomers, especially new hands. So please come join us, 8 o'clock Wednesday night, East Coast time. It's our youth that'll be back this Friday night. Last week, all the kids went to out for Halloween, so we did not have a youth net last week. What else do I have? I guess I don't have anything else. I believe Charles is with us tonight, and as far as I know, he's going to do a little introduction here tonight on NFED antennas, or I think that's what he said he was going to talk on. So Charles, go right ahead, sir. Good evening. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
Good evening, Dick, and everyone on the TechNet. This is Charles, KC6 UFM. Yeah, and there's been some comments and some talk going on about NFED antennas and the ununs used to feed them. And that was actually going to be in an upcoming edition of the Antenna Farm. We're going to dig into it much, much deeper at that point. But for right now, I thought I'd just throw a few introductory things out there. And the first thing is there's two different kinds of NFED antennas. There's the so-called NFED half-wave, or EFHW antennas that are all over the place. And those are characterized by the fact that their overall length is a half-wave at the lowest operating frequency. And then it relies on harmonic relationships between bands to go down, or go up, I should say, to the higher frequency bands. The other type is, some people will call it a random wire. The more accepted term is a long wire because the length is anything except random. These antennas are designed to be shorter than a half wave, and in fact, the whole goal of a long wire is to not be resonant on any frequency of interest. And let me do a quick reset. Okay, and for both of those antennas, you need some sort of a matching transformer, because on the half wave, the NFED half wave, the feed point impedance is going to be somewhere on the order of 2,400 plus ohms, and obviously 50 ohm coax connected to that is not going to go well. And I'm going to be talking about just coax because the end-fed wires are, by their nature, unbalanced antennas. You do not need a balun to feed these. But some people will just call it a matching transformer. That's my habit. Other people will refer to it as an un-un. In other words, unbalanced to unbalanced. But the long wire, the non-resonant antenna, those tend to have a feed point impedance of around 450 ohms, give or take a little. So you're going to need some kind of transformer there to get to the right frequency or get to the right impedance. The way that is usually done is with a broadband toroid transformer. For the end-fed half waves, for many, many, many years, all you heard about was using a 49 to 1 transformer. And if you do the math, 49 times 50 ohms gets you up to that 2,400 range. But recently, I would say in the last decade or so, we've heard more and more about using a 64 to 1 ratio. And the reason for that is that as an antenna, as a wire antenna gets closer to the ground, the feed point impedance goes up. So you need to account for that. Most people put an 80-meter antenna as high in the air as it needs to be to eliminate that effect. So you will see both out there now. As a rule of thumb, the 49 to 1s work better on the higher frequency bands, from 20, maybe 30 meters on to 10 and 6 meters. However, the 64 to 1s work better on the lower frequency bands, 60 meters, 80 meters, and 160 meters. So, you have to think about what bands you're most interested in. You have to think about how high your antenna is going to be, and then you can make a choice. There are some commercially available units that will do both 49 and 64 to 1 switchable. Reset. Okay. But when we get to the long wire antennas, again, keep in mind that a long wire is not resonant at any frequency that you're going to be using it on. And it has a much lower feed point impedance. And traditionally, we use a 9 to 1 un-un transformer for that. Now, all these transformers, you can buy them. Palomar Engineering manufactures them, as well as a number of other companies. You can go to HRO or Gigaparts or whoever you want, and they will have them, and you can buy them. They tend to be pretty pricey, but you can make them for about 1/10 of what you pay for one, and they are not difficult to make. Okay, you can make one yourself very cheaply and very easily, and in the upcoming Antenna Farm article, that's one of the things we're going to be looking at. And I'm going to start off with a long wire antenna. But the other half of the antenna is the wire itself. As I mentioned, the in-fed half waves, it will be a half wavelength long at your lowest band of operation. And then you rely on harmonic relationships below that to get the other bands. You can buy anything from 160 meters all the way to 6 meters as an end-fed half wave, and they do work fairly well. But I will warn you, 60 meters is a bit of a challenge, because if you go with an 80-meter end-fed half wave, you're going to find that you can't tune 60 meters because it has no harmonic relationship. It's just kind of out there. So keep in mind, you won't be able to do 60 meters there. Some of the commercially available ones, and I'm going to point out the ones that MFJ makes, because of the material that they use to make the toroid transformer, they will not work on 6 meters. Just way too much loss. So keep that in mind. A lot of the other manufacturers use the correct material, in my opinion, and you can operate 6 meters as well. For the long wire, let me do another reset here. Okay, for the long wire, again, it is not resonant at any frequency that you're going to operate it on. A lot of people say, resonant antenna is inefficient, you can't use that, yada, yada, yada. Well, they're not inefficient. Basically, all the energy you put into an antenna is going to leave the antenna. So, it will work just as well as anything else. The advantage to them is they tend to be much, much shorter. The example that I'm going to be using in the Antenna Farm article is going to be designed to operate all the way down to 160 meters, but it's only 102 feet long. And it will work there just fine. It will also work all the way up to the 220 band, the 1 1/4 centimeters, or 1 1/4 meters. So, you can get very, very wide coverage, but it's a little too complicated to go into tonight because picking the right length is crucial on a long wire. Because if it is resonant, either quarter wave, half wave, or full wave, you will not be able to operate on that band. So there's some software out there that you can use that will tell you if you want to operate on these bands, these are the lengths that you can use. Or you can do it the hard way if you want. But, it will accomplish the goals very easily for you. And they tend to be a little shorter than the end-fed half waves. So kind of keep that in mind. And again, if you're doing an end-fed half wave, depending upon your installation, you might need a 49-to-1 or you might need a 64-to-1 transformer. But if you're doing a long wire, you're going to need a 9-to-1. For both of these, you may or may not need a good antenna tuner. And by good, I mean either a wide range auto tuner. Usually the LDG Pro series will work just fine. Or ideally a manual tuner that you can go through with a inductor and a variable capacitor and get a very good match to your feed line with that. So, we're going to get into this in more detail in the next Antenna Farm article, not the one that is coming out here in a day or so, or actually I think it's already out, but the one for the month of December, I believe. I'm not going to go out on a limb with the volume number, but it'll be the next one anyway. So that's all on that, and if you have any questions when Dick gets to the question part of the TechNet here, feel free to ask, and I'll answer those, or drop by the Ask an Elmer, Be an Elmer on Thursday.
See, for that, Charles, you timed the system out again. You got to leave longer breaks if you're talking way too long. Let me get some of these notes back here before we go on. Okay, thank you, Charles. Let me go up to Kevin, VE3BZ, and see what he's got in his swapping shop for this week. Kevin?
Hey, good evening, Dick, and good evening to everyone on the net. This is Kevin, VE3BZ in Victoria Harbour, Ontario, with tonight's swap and shop portion of the TechNet. I have one listing tonight, and that's from Gil, K4GDS in Orlando, Florida. Gil is selling a Prepcom MMX multiband Morse code transceiver for 20 meters. 40 meters and 80 meters can be added with the module from Prepcom. Includes keyboard, power cord, an Apache hard case for the transceiver. We'll ship to a QRZ address for the actual shipping costs, and he is asking $200. You can contact Gil by email at k4gds@icloud.com, and he is also good on QRZ. And that is all I have for tonight. If you have anything for sale, trade, or want, and you would like it listed on the ECR Swap and Shop, just go to eastcoastreflector.com, click on Contact ECR, and then SwapNet submissions, or just email me directly at ve3bz@rogers.com. Okay, that is all I have. Dick, back to you, V3BZ.
Alrighty, thank you. Boy, we just dropped a whole bunch of notes here all of a sudden. Some hub or something must have disconnected. Thank you, Kevin. Maybe they got timed out. Thank you, Kevin, for all you do here. Keeping track of all that stuff. Sounds like some good stuff you got tonight from Gil. Right, as our new format here, we go right to stations with amateur radio-related questions. I'm going to take questions, and then after we get through our questions, I'm going to turn it over to Roger. And I'm not sure if what we're doing, whether we're taking 10 radio check-ins or 10 text check-ins, but that's the way it'll work on through after we get done with the stations with questions. So stations with amateur radio-related questions, please give us your call sign twice. We'll do our best to get an answer for you.
Kilo Charlie 1, Juliet Papa Delta. Kilo Charlie 1, Juliet Papa Delta.
We got Gil in Orlando, and I got Jeffrey in Milton, Vermont. Good evening, Jeffrey, KC1JPD. Like you've been in here 21 times already, so you're an old timer. What our question tonight, which I didn't ask, I'm gonna have to give Kevin a chance to answer it as well. I have to send it back up to him. My fault there. Have you ever built a homebrew antenna? I had to move screens here. Have you ever built a homebrew antenna? We've all played with antennas. I know we were talking to Scott a little bit earlier. He made a TV antenna out of coat hangers. Great job, works great for him. A few years back. So, have you in any antenna? So, have you ever built a homebrew antenna? That's our question tonight, Jeff. And why don't you answer ours, and we'll take yours. Go ahead.
Good evening, Dick, and everyone on the net tonight. I have built some dipole antennas for my HF rig, just 20 meter and 40 meter, and use those. My question is, I have a BTEC UV25x4 tri-band as my mobile radio in my truck, one of those that you can just plug into the cigarette outlet in there. And I've been noticing with it, whenever I'm driving and I have it on, I get these clicks. Full ka-chunk or any noise, but it's definitely a click, and I get them every half minute to a minute. And I was just wondering if anyone had dealt with that, knows what that is, or if there's a way to kind of minimize that. I don't think I'm transmitting when it's clicking like that, but just not sure what that is.
Is it definitely on a like a 30-second interval, like you said?
So it's the occasional, but it's definitely not. I haven't sat there with the timer, but I don't think it's a regular thing. But it's, you know, some it'll be a little longer, sometimes shorter, sometimes a couple right in a row.
That could be really tough. Probably something, one of your computers in your car. You probably have about 20 computers in your car. I don't know, put it out to the group, but I would suspect something on board. Anybody want to comment on Jeff's dilemma?
A3AWA.
Oh, go ahead.
I suspect like you, I think it's coming from the vehicle. Could be coming through the 12-volt cigarette lighter supply. I would try and use a separate battery, standalone battery, and get rid of the vehicle power supply and see if the problem disappears. Back to you, Dick.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Well, let me ask you this. Just when the car is off, when the engine's not running and you just have the radio on, does it do it then?
That's a good question. I have not tried that to see. Usually I just turn it on while I'm going, so that's definitely something to try, and definitely I like Daryl's suggestion there, so thank you very much.
Certainly you need to prove if it's coming from the car, which I'm 99% sure it is. So yeah, just to leave the ignition off and turn the radio on and see what happens. And obviously when you turn the car on, if it starts, it's coming from the car. You want to answer our question, Eddie? Have you ever homebrewed an antenna? Have you ever homebrewed an antenna? Jeffrey, you want to answer our question tonight? Have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
Yeah, yes I have. I've done some dipole work for my HF for my ICOM 7300, little 20 meter and 40 meter dipole antennas that I have strung up in the trees. Back to you, Ned.
Yes from you. Well, thanks for your question, but I think you're going to have to diagnose it yourself. Try that. Come back next week and let us know. Going over to Gil in Orlando, K4GDS. Gil, what's your question tonight? K4GDS, Gil, what's your question for tonight? We'll move on. I really didn't hear Gil call in, but apparently Vicky did. Stations with an amateur radio-related question tonight. Give us your call sign, we'll get you in here.
Henry Lima Yankee.
Station on one of the bridges. You need to key up, wait a few seconds before you start. Lima Yankee is all we heard.
Sorry about that. November 3, Lima Yankee.
Victor 6, Golf Lima Uniform, KO6, GLU.
Kilo Delta 4, Romeo.
KO6 GLU, Tim, as well. We'll go to Glen in Glen Burnie, Maryland. And 3 LOY. probably heard our question, but I'll repeat it one more time here. Boy, I'm running out of screen here tonight. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna is our question, and we'll take yours, please.
Yes, I've homebrewed a couple antennas. I've done a couple of dipoles in the past. One quite a while back for 11 meters, and then most recent for 10 meters. I've probably done the old standard SO230 connectors with soldered wire in them to make various VHF and UHF antennas.
We got you down for a yes. What's your question for us tonight, Glenn?
Okay, I have a 66-foot internet halfway up in the backyard. I don't have a really large footprint in the backyard. I've got about 9,000 square feet. So my interest is in the random wire antenna for the, especially the top band, the 160. If I put something like that up in the yard, could I run that as an inverted shape, going say X amount of feet in one direction and then take it up 90 degrees into another direction? Will that work?
KC6UFM.
I give you my version of that. Sure, anything works. I had a home. Charles will disagree with me. I had a place in Florida, and I didn't have enough real estate. I had I guess a 160 Carolina Wyndham, and I had it running zigzag every which way, and it worked just great. Go ahead, Charles.
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, Glenn, it will work just fine. You will read in some articles or hear on some of the YouTube channels that, oh, it's got to be in an absolute straight line, and you got to get out there with a square and a plumb bob and make sure that it's in a straight line. Just ignore all that. Put it up any way you like. Both end-fed half waves and random or long wire antennas, they can be slopers, inverted V's, whatever, flat top. You can have dog legs in them, no problem. The only thing to keep in mind, Glenn, is when you're planning it, don't forget that these antennas feed from the end. I have had people who literally, they got so wrapped up in it, they forgot that it was an end-fed antenna, and they laid everything out just like it was a dipole where they were going to feed it in the middle. And then when they actually got it up in the air and started doing things, they realized that, oh, I've got to redo all this. So, just do it once. Don't forget that one end is where you're going to be feeding it from. Back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Thank you, Charles. Glenn, did that answer your question?
Absolutely. I certainly appreciate that. And yeah, I understand the importance of feeding it off the end. I'm not looking for a dipole or anything off center fed. So, very good. Yeah, I've got a large tree I can run it into and then look over to a house. So, sounds great, fellas. I appreciate all the helpful info. Back to you, Ned.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for stopping by. I see you've only been here a couple of times. Nice that you stopped by. That was Glenn from Glen Burnie, Maryland. Let's go to Hayward, California. KO4GLU. Want to answer our question, and we'll take yours. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna? Hayward, California, KO6GLU. Let's move on to KD4RHL. KD4RHL, good evening to you. We'll take your question, please.
Good evening, Dick, Vicki, Charles. My question is, about 25 years ago I took down a tower, and I won't get into all the whys of that, but I took some 7/8 heliax off of the tower as is, with about 3 feet of 9913 jumpers on either end, and spooled it up, and it's been sitting there for 25 years. I haven't checked it with an analyzer, quite frankly, because I don't have one. So my question is, what's the chances of it still being viable? With the jumpers on either end, and it's still very good. I don't suspect there's probably a lot of water intrusion, perhaps, but just curious if it'd be worth fooling with.
My vote is yes. If the ends have been sealed up good, I got 800 or 900 feet behind my shed. It's probably been back there about the same length of time. You know, I hate to cut it. I've been looking for a site someday for it, and I don't probably never use it, and I'm probably giving it away. But I would, you know, I need to check it out. But chances are it's going to be good. What do you think, Charles, if the ends have been sealed up tight?
Yeah, KC6UFM. Ernest, I think it would be just fine as long as, you know, as Dick says, the ends have been sealed very, very well. You know, let's face facts, you're not going to get any water intrusion through the sides of the hard line. The only place it's going to get in is where the connectors are. But if that's been sealed, good to go there. But you know, the safe thing to do before you put it up on another tower, you know, climb up the tower and hook it up and run it down and secure it and get all the way to the base and then hook it up to the transmitter and find out that, you know, you've got something approaching 20,000 to 1 SWR. You know, either borrow or buy an analyzer or a nano VNA and scan it to make sure that it's, you know, not toast and just work in the long run. Back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Thank you, Charles. Well, you know, Ernest, you think about it, if the ends are sealed properly, it's no difference whether it be curled up behind a shed or whether it be hanging in the air. And good engineering practice on, you know, on big towers like that is we go up and check the connections, you know, with Scotch code and all that every year or thereabouts, and make sure that the connections are all sealed very well. So, well, good luck to you. I hope that answered your question, and I'll send it back to you to answer our question.
Yes, sir. And the ends are, I checked them the other day, they were sealed very, very well when we put it up there, and it looks like they still have that integrity. I have built a few mobile antennas that I homebrewed that worked well, little quarter wave antennas. And I had some fun one evening with some friends. We were having a get-together, fire outside kind of thing. And we built a long wire just so we could pick up WSM, and it actually worked quite well. Back to you, sir. KD4RHL.
Good. Nice to see that you played with antennas. Antennas are fun. Antennas are fun, and they're easy, and you can get really into it like Charles. We can do what we do in the Zoom room, throw a wire out and have fun. Let's take some stations with amateur radio-related questions. Well, everybody's either thinking of a question, too shy to answer it, or both. I'm going to send it back up to Kevin, VE3BZ. I never got his answer. I never asked him the question. Unfortunately, it was my fault. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna, Kevin?
Again, Dick, I saw the question, and I was going to answer it, but I forgot. And the answer is yes, I have. All my HF antennas are homebrewed, including a fan dipole. And I, too, built a homemade TV antenna out of half-inch copper pipe. It's actually a folded dipole type antenna. All right, thanks. Dick, back to you, V3BZ.
Kevin, got you down for a yes. All right, who else has a amateur radio-related question that they'd like to ask us here tonight on the East Coast Reflector TechNet number, whatever it is here, 371 we've been here. This is Dick, WB2JPQ. Please give us your call sign. We'll see about getting you an answer.
WA7FSH, Glen, Rainier, Oregon.
Well, Glenn, we haven't heard from you for a long time. How are you? WA7FSH. How about answering our question, and we'll take one from you.
Well, Dick, it is good to be back on the East Coast Reflector. Good grief knows this is still my home away from home. And by the way, WA7CEB, the old man over there in Idaho, he's still kicking. He's not kicking as hard or as much as he used to, but he's still kicking. Hey, I got a question. I built an 80-meter full-wave loop. I've deployed it horizontally, and I've deployed it vertically, both in a delta configuration. And I'm wondering what kind of realistic differences I can be able to see. WA7FSH, back to next.
We'll send that over to Charles.
Thank you, Dick, KC6UFM. Yeah, Glenn, you didn't say how high the minimum point on your loop is, but, on 80 meters, unless you're working in this, and even if you are, the random polarization factor is kind of going to cancel out any difference between horizontal or vertical at your location, with the exception of on your receive side. The horizontals tend to be a little quieter than a vertical. But as far as actual signals is concerned, I can't see you finding much difference between the two. I think you're going to practice, you're going to find out that it doesn't matter, but if you put it horizontally, it may be a little quieter on receive for you, reject a little bit of QRN from various and sundry sources, and QRM from the power company. Back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Glenn, did that answer your question?
It did, yes. Minimum height, both horizontal and vertical, was about 35 feet. So I deployed it in a triangle horizontally, 35 feet up, and when I deployed it vertically, polarized vertically, the bottom of my triangle was 35 feet up, and then used a weather balloon to then lift it on up from there. I'm talking Well, it was during field day, so it was mostly 40 and 20 meters. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. Good to hear from you, Dick. Tell the rest of the fellas, Mike and all of them, I said hi. WA7 FFH.
We're not going to let you go that quick. You have to answer our question. That's the deal here, one for one. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna? I think we answered the question, but we'll hear it from you.
Yes, and I will add this: no balance, no run-ins. Just 274 and some feet of wire, and I use a dirty choke at the bottom of it, just outside the tuner. And honestly, I have found that the tuner that's on board my IC706 will tune that thing any place from 10 meters on down to 80 meters. So it's just a great antenna. It does take a little bit of work to put it up in the air, but man, it's just a great antenna. And what he was saying is so true about the noise rejection. Anything inside that horizontal loop, anything that's inside of it, LEDs, whatever, just completely rejects it. Appreciate it. Hope that answers for you there. WA7 FSH.
Hey, we'll get you down for a yes. You pretty much answered the question when you had your question. Thanks, Glenn. It's good to talk to you again. Alrighty, who else do we have? Stations with amateur radio-related questions. What is it, 42 past the hour? This is Dick, WB2JPQ, getting right into amateur radio-related questions.
Zero
KJ5, KIE monitoring. This is Cody Insurance.
Cody says he's monitoring. You're in the middle of a net, sir. You're welcome to join in when the time comes. We got Bill. I recognize the voice. KF0MHN. Good evening, Bill. And what do you got for us tonight?
I'm basically just checking in, but maybe more serious technical question. What color does the end-fed wire have to be?
Easy one, I can answer that. It has to be blue, light blue, so when you look up on a clear blue day, you don't see it. You want to answer our question, Bill? Have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
No, never have, but it's something I would definitely look into doing. It's just another project to work on. So thanks for the answer on the end-fed. This is KF0MA10, I'll be clear.
Who do we have with amateur radio-related questions? Come now, this is Dick, WB2JPQ.
This is K4GDS. If I can get a hall pass and try again, I'd really like that.
No hall passes. That's only for the Zoom room. Glenn, good evening. Go ahead.
I'm looking to put a new antenna on my car, but I have a height restriction because I park in a garage. So I could put a short antenna, maybe up to a quarter wavelength on the roof, or I could put a longer antenna but put it back on the end of the car with like a lip mount on the hatch. And I'm kind of curious, is it better to have a longer antenna lower mounted or a shorter antenna higher mounted?
KC6UFM.
Give you my version. Gil probably won't agree with Charles, but I've been UHF, VHF a long, long time. 6.5 centuries, 6 centuries anyway. We kind of invented FM back in the early 60s, mid 60s, and I have needed to gain in my life. When I get a new car, I'd come home and drill 2 holes in the center of the roof. One for VHF, one for UHF, a quarter wave. I've run all my entire life. Never used a gain antenna. I don't believe in gain antennas, but to answer your question, gain antenna, or a quarter wave on the center of your roof. We'll see what Charles has got to say. This is WB2JPQ.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I agree wholeheartedly with you. The vast majority of cases on mobile, you not only don't need a gain antenna, you really don't want one. Because stop and think about it. The way you get gain on an antenna, Gil, is by compressing that imaginary donut that is around the antenna. So it puts more and more and more signal down on the horizon. However, most repeaters are higher than you are. So if they're on a mountaintop, your signal is going to be hitting the base of the mountain instead of the top where the repeater is. A quarter wave is going to get you about 15 degrees above the horizon, which should get the vast majority of repeaters in an area. And you don't really need the gain. You need the pattern up high enough to reach the repeater's antennas. So that's what I would do, is put a quarter wave right up on top of the roof, and bada bing, bada boom, you should be good then. Back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Yeah, Gil, you want to think of that quarter wave antenna on the top of your car as a tennis ball, like Gil said. It's a tennis ball, radiating equally in all directions. As soon as you put a gain antenna on there, it's down like a glazed donut. You're, what do you got, about 15-degree beam width instead of all directional. So, and gain antennas are a waste of money, but that's what you're going to gain when you spend all that money for a clumsy, big old gain antenna that looks terrible on your car. You aren't even going to notice it. Back to you, Gil.
I appreciate the input, and if you and Charles are concurring on it, I gotta go with that. I'm just wondering if the glazing on the donut interferes at all with the radiation pattern. But I'll hand it back to you, Dick. And yes, I built an end-fed half-wave from a kit, if that counts. K4GDS, back to that.
For a question, and I think that would be ideal for you. All right, who else we got? We got some good questions coming in here tonight. This is Dick, WB2JPQ, along with Vicky. I guess I didn't mention that tonight. Obviously, she's on the log here, K8VKY, and Roger's here, K04QMM, ready to pick up when I am done. So stations with an radio-related question, come now, please.
K7FPS, K7FPS.
Bravo, Kilo Mike 7. You, Fred in Reno, K7FPS, and we got a KM7. KM7, come again, please. You're kind of noisy. No, not kind of noisy. Let's rephrase that. You're very noisy. Kilo Mike 7. Kilo Mike 7, Charlie Bravo, India. India, Vicky, I think it is. Charlie Bravo, India. Let's put that in, see what that comes up, Vic. Charlie Bravo, India. We're working on it. Mike in Portland. Let's see, where did that come from? Oh, that makes sense. You're coming on 3039, so I guess we got the right call sign. We'll get right back to you. I'm going to go to Fred in Reno. K7, I'll never get used to your new call sign. K7, FPS. Good evening, Fred.
Yes, I trip over it myself occasionally. I'll answer your question first. Yes, I have. Back in the day, with my Astronaut 8 multi-band radio, yeah, I put a long wire out, well, a wire from the radio with an alligator clip running to a maple tree that was out in our yard, and also picking up UHF, VHF stations on those little 12-inch black and white TVs back in the day. I'll take a break for a second. And would you know my station would ID? Carrying on with Gil's conversation, I have a new car. I'm not a big fan of drilling holes in the roof. What about the idea of putting a disc cone antenna on a roof rack clamp-on thing? I realize it's going to be 1-to-1, but at least I could unscrew it and maybe take it down. One of the guys in our club actually has like a little motorized thing so he can flatten the antenna down whenever he pulls into a parking garage, and then it flips back up again. But anyway, my question is the roof rack antenna with a disc cone. KC6UFM.
Charles agrees on this. This cone is a great antenna for a scanner antenna, but I found on UHF and VHF, and I assume that's what we're talking about. It's a poor antenna. But let's see if Charles agrees. This is agree or not to agree tonight, Charles.
KC6UFM. Thank you, Dick. Fred, I'm with Dick. I'm not going to get used to your new call sign anytime soon, so after considered thought, I have decided that you need to send that vanity call back to the FCC and go back to your old call. But anyway, yeah, the disc cone, interesting antenna. It performs very, very well for receive, for scanners, that sort of thing. Not the world's best transmitting antenna on any band. But it does give you multiple bandwidth, but there are multiple bands of operation. But I'm assuming we're talking about basically 2 meters, 1.25 meters, and 70 centimeters. There's no disc cone on the planet that works well above 70 centimeters, but I would recommend that you just go with the quarter wave on the roof. You don't necessarily have to drill a hole. You could use the luggage rack, but there is one caveat there. A lot of cars now have fiberglass or other composite roofs. So if we're talking about a new car, you may not have an electrical connection between that roof rack and the rest of the car. You need to check that out with, at the very least with an ohm meter to see, if you do have a connection there. If not, you're going to have to run some jumper wires to get that going in there. But on the other hand, if you go with a quarter wave, 2 meter even, the roof rack itself may be large enough to provide the counterpoise. That's something you just have to measure out and check. But on 70 centimeters, it definitely will be enough to provide that, even if it's not connected to the frame. But I would avoid the disc cones unless you're running a scanner in the car. At that point, it might work pretty well, but also keep in mind that disc cones have, even if they are the wire type, they have quite a bit of wind loading. So if your car has a composite roof or fiberglass roof, it might rip the luggage rack right off the top of the car. So keep that in mind as well. Fred, you take care. Back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Thank you, Charles. I guess you could always just drop the little bit of the headliner around the doors and get to the bolts that hold the roof rack wrap on and bond it that way if that was the case. Over to you, Fred. What do you think?
I'm thinking mag mount is probably the way to go. Just have to be conscious to put it on and take it off. I realize there's capacitive coupling there, but I'm trying to figure it out on my car and trying to carry on with Gil as well. Anyway, K7FPS, back to Ned. Thank you all.
Thanks, Fred. You can't run away yet. You haven't answered our question, but I will say, experience is the mag mount will do more damage to your car, and just drill the hole and be done with it. When you trade it in, the car salesman don't care about it. I pulled in 4 or 5 antennas in the center of my roof to trade cars. They might look up and say, hey, you going to plug the holes or are you going to leave the antennas on? They don't care. They want to sell cars. Answer our question tonight. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna, Fred?
Yes, I did. I thought I answered before I asked my question, but yes, back to pick up various stations on my radio a long time ago. The Astronaut 8, the multiband one, and then also homebrewed ones for the black and white TVs so that I could pick up Dragnet and Outer Limits and all those other good shows on my 12-inch black and white TV.
Well, you went into it a little deeper that time, and I do remember, and Vicki hit yes in there. My apologies. Fred, thanks for your question. And thanks for answering ours. Portland, Oregon, KM7CBI. You were a little bit noisy. Let's see if you're better now, and go ahead and ask us your question.
Yeah, I switched handsets. Hopefully I sound a little bit better here. I'll go back to you and let you tell me if I sound okay.
Sound much better, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, to answer the question tonight, my answer is yes, I have, and my question is actually about that antenna that I built. So I followed the instructions for the Digi-antenna. It's a wind-up antenna with a PNC connector for HF. They walk you through winding your own ferrite toroid, the 8243, and I believe it's 49 to 1. Since I have a technician license, I wonder, is the 49 to 1 with that ferrite, is that the best for 10 and 6 meters? Or is there something better out there I could switch out the toroid for? Back to Matt.
KC6UFM.
Over to you, Charles. This is WB2JPQ at 58 past the hour.
Thank you again, Dick. Yeah, Mike, the 49 to 1 is going to be very good for both 10 and 6 meters. Basically, the 49 to 1 is optimized for 20 meters, maybe 30 meters and higher, including 6 meters. So it should do just fine for you there. The only question is, I'm not sure in that toroid, I'm not sure what mix ferrite that they are using. If they are using a 43 mix or a 41 mix, that is not going to work very well at 6 meters. It cuts off before that, lower than 6 meters. For 6 meters, you really need to be using a 61 mix. But again, I'm not familiar with what they provide in that. So if you check that, you should be able to find that fairly easily. And if you definitely want to use it on 6 meters and they don't have the appropriate mix, you
There you go. What do you think about that answer?
Yeah, KM7 CBI. Yeah, that sounds great. It is a 40 that they have listed on there. And so if I order a 61, is it wound similarly? I imagine it would be, and without having the video pulled up, I can't remember the exact number of windings, but I'm sure I can find one out there for a 61. But yeah, curious. I'll check into that. Thanks, KC6USN. This is KM7 CBI. Back to net.
do I have it here, Dick?
Go ahead, Charles.
Alrighty, what do we got? There we go. Yeah, Mike, it would be wound identically, assuming you get the identical core. Because, the cores, basically, you have FT for ferrite toroid, and then a dash and a number, 140 or 240 or what have you, and then another dash, and then the last 2 numbers are the mix. So as long as you get an FT dash, whatever that core is that they provided, just in a 61 mix instead of a 43, the winding of that transformer would be identical. No changes at all needed. Back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Thank you, Charles. And I'm going to put you down for a yes, as long as you're asking for have you build an antenna. You're in the process of, so that counts. Alrighty, it's 2 minutes past the top of the hour here. Well, I was going to say on the East Coast, but that's pretty much everywhere. But after the 9th hour here on the East Coast. Who else do we have? Stations with an amateur radio question. Call signs twice. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
W4HKL.
4HKL. Steve, go ahead.
This is a question for some of the ARCOM, I believe it's ARCOM 210 users out there. Should be a few. Has anyone ever taken and I'm going to call it a program, just a set of commands that are loaded to the controller. Has anyone taken a program that was written for an older version of the controller with an older version of the RCP software and uploaded it to a newer controller, like say you upgraded controllers? And I'm sure there's a newer version of the RCP that has to be used as well. Has anybody done that? And if so, do you have any advice? Back to that, W4HKL.
We'll see. My answer is no, but I don't think you're going to want to do that. But let's see what everybody says. Who'd like to help Steve out? Doesn't look like anybody wants to take the easy and that's what it is, Steve. The easy way out. And I've been there, done it over the years. Oh, boy. I got controllers when controllers first came out. But that was something that you never wanted to do, but I don't know about the AirCom. All depends on the commands. I mean, some, used to be the words stayed the same, for instance, like in some of them, but other things had changed. So I don't advise it, but I guess you're on your own on this one. Hey, why don't you answer our question, and I'm sure you've homebrewed an antenna, Steve.
I kind of missed the question. I've actually been engaged in a work-related online webinar for the last hour while I had this on in the background. But yeah, I've made several. I've made some homemade Yagis. I can't remember the style, but that they were in an article, I believe it was in QST. Amateurs in Cuba made them. They were sort of fed like a J-pole on the driven element, and they used wooden booms, really easy to make with hand tools. Made a couple of those. Made a J-pole from designs in a old 73 magazine, and never say die. Anyway, that's it. That's my contribution for the antenna building. Back to you, Dick, W4HK.
Thank you, Steve. Oh, well, let me see here. What are we doing on time? We'll take one more amateur-related question, if you got it. One more amateur radio-related question here tonight, then I'm going to turn it over to Roger, and he's going to, what did he just tell me? He's going to take radio check-ins. Check-ins on RF, and then he's going to take 10 text check-ins and back and forth 10 and 10. So one more station with a question.
That control is Kilo Echo 4 Zulu Yankee Quebec KE4ZYQ, Joe in Clinton Township, Michigan.
Roger just corrected me. He's taking text check-ins first, because my memory's a little short here tonight. Hello, Joe. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, net control. This is KE4ZYQ, by the way. Good evening to all on frequency. And I'd like to ask a question that get a general consensus, if possible. Is the type, if any, surge protector, if you use commercial power for your ham shack, what is the commercial surge protector, if any, that you found, investigated, or bought, or used? And hopefully most people use a surge protector in case there's a power surge during storms especially. So does anybody have any particular one they searched out or found or wanted or got or heard about? It sounds like a vague question, but really it's very precise. Surge protector for commercial power AC. KE4ZYQ, back to net.
That's a great question, Joe. Let's see what we can find out. I've always used polyphasers for lightning arresters, and I don't know if they still make them, but they used to make great surge protectors for 120 volts. But let's put it out to you. See what surge protectors are being used in the world. Who would like to help Joe out tonight?
K7 FPS.
I'll bring it back to net control first.
Guess another node come up. Go ahead, Fred.
I'm using Morgan Systems M-474. It kind of has one of those gas tubes in it, and they're not inexpensive. But that's my suggestion. Morgan Systems M-474.
One suggestion. Anybody else got a suggestion for Fred? Or, I'm sorry, for Joe.
N0MSS.
Wouldn't be an evening without you, Ross. Good evening. Go right ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Dick, and everybody on the net. So I thought he said for power, which should be like we use a trip light isobar. There's a 4-outlet surge protector, for instance. if you have more than one thing to plug into it, something similar to that. Or possibly even a little better isolation would be like a computer UPS, where it has a battery in it, and it charges the battery, and then it's got 4 outlets that run off the battery, and the other 4 just surge like an outlet strip. So I was thinking you said the power surge instead of coax surge.
KD6 CWI. Good evening.
Ruben, hang on. We're in the middle of a net here. I'm sorry, Ross, I got off track here. Yes, he's talking about AC. Joe, do you want to answer Ross's question?
E4ZYQ. Yeah, I'm talking about AC power supply, not coax. AC power supply, when you run it off your own shack, your own QTH for your base, your shack, AC. Back to that, KE4ZYQ. Kilo Delta 6, Charlie Whiskey India, 86 CWI. Ruben, good evening.
Ruben, do you have an answer for the question?
Good evening, Dick. Good evening, everyone. Coming in on Echolink, I'm out about in an outlet right now. So anyway, I think the other gentleman answered the question already. I'm just going to re-verify it for everyone. Trip light, Tango, Romeo, India, Pop-up, Dash, Lima, India, Tango, Edward. Trip light. It's a surge protector. So he's preventing, a hand shack fire, because if you use those plastic surge protector, and if it's not really that good, and that causes the fire. And I think that's the question that he was asking originally, for a surge protector, not a lightning arrestor or something like that. So that's what I understood. So the other gentleman already answered the question, but I'm just re-verifying it. Yeah, trip light. So if you look at my call sign in my QRZ, there's like a 11 position switch. So you can put 11 positions on it, on different wattage on it. My Samblex power supply is connected to that surge protector. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for letting me speak in the ECR. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy life, and God bless. And happy holidays. 73 KD6 CWI, Dr. Dick.
Thank you, Ruben. Also, there's a couple of suggestions for you. Does that help you out tonight?
This is KE4ZYQ. Hopefully other hams too. There might be some new hams or other hams out there that have been doing the hobby very long. But very rarely do we talk about surge protection, not just lightning arresters and all that, like it was mentioned, but actual AC power source surge protection. And you can get those UPSs, which I have for my internet and whatever. But I do have some backup power in the case of total outages. But it's always good to have some surge protection, because you could get spikes during certain storms and everything, or utility issue. So thank you, Net Control, and all involved. KE4ZYQ.
K7 FPS, recheck.
Antenna.
A lot of the trip light ones have MOVs in them, and they wear out. And that was my only other comment. K7 FPS, back to net.
right. I guess I didn't hear you in there. I said I sent it over to Joe. Joe, did you have any other questions? And you would like to answer our question tonight. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna? Well, that question was for you. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
Yes, net control. I heard the question. I waited for the repeater to ID over here. KE4ZYQ was IDing. Well, yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because in the midst of the other question I asked, I didn't get to answer that. So, I kind of brewed my own antenna one time quite a while back when I lived at home with my parents. I had a shortwave radio that I could not turn on, I could receive, and I used my parents' the room I was in, my bedroom. I had the old-fashioned radiators. So I used the radiator system of the house as an antenna and wired up to that for the shortwave radio, and boy, did I get reception. So there you go, the closest thing to brewing an own antenna. Kind of cheating, I guess, but hopefully that answers the question. Thank you, Net Control, and all on the net, KE4ZYQ.
I remember playing around with the same thing. We had hot water heat in my house when I grew up, and big radiators. Great for drying clothes when you come in all soaking wet from the snow. So, and it's just for you, Joe, or anybody else. We hear this all the time. On a full duplex repeater, you do not need to wait for the tail to drop or the idea. You just pick it up, wait your couple of seconds, and start talking on a full duplex repeater. They're made to, if there's a long tail or whatever, you just pick it up and start talking. We notice that a lot. You know, we'll turn, in the morning brew, we'll turn over to stations, and I'll sit here and I'll say, yep, that repeater's got a long tail on it. Everybody's waiting for the tail to drop. You do not need to wait for the tail to drop on a full duplex repeater. Alrighty, it's up. I'm done. Roger's been waiting here and waiting. What is it, 17 past the hour. Thanks, everybody. Thank you to Vicky, K8VKY, who's logging for us tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Roger, K04Q on them. I will see you at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning on the Morning Brew, and I think we got a good topic tomorrow, a good question. So call and join us in the morning. Good night, everybody. Over to you, Roger. Well, thanks, Dick. And I really enjoy these antenna questions. Man, it's a lot to, you know, the antenna is the most important part of ham radio, if you ask me, not really the radio. And thanks, Vicky, for logging for me, K8VKY. And a couple announcements. Tomorrow night, got the Wednesday at 8 o'clock, got the open mic night for a lot of the new net controllers. Check that out. It's always fun. They always have a good question. And then Thursday morning, you can join us, any generals and extras out there. Join me and Randy with the 20-meter net, 10 o'clock, 14.317. Have a lot of fun there. And then we got the Asking Elmer, I think, is Thursday night. Not really sure. Check that. It's always at the Zoom room, 8 o'clock, something around there, 7 o'clock. And Saturday, the 40-meter net, 7.245. That's at 9 o'clock a.m. A lot of fun. Then there's that trivia net, Saturday at 11 p.m. I don't think I've ever made it for that, but one of these times I should do it. I'm always in bed early. All right, stand by. I usually give Vicki time to get the text up, but she already does. It just makes sense to go ahead and go with the text first. And the question of the evening is, have you ever homebrewed an antenna? And I think I have, just on an old Ranger truck one time when the antenna broke. I took a copper hanger, straightened out the hook, and stuffed it in there. That's my homebrewed antenna. All right, this is KO4QMM Rod. Hill, Florida. We're going to start with the text check-ins from the bottom up. W2RBC, my buddy Randy, West Seneca, New York. KI5PMI, Bill Hobbs, New Mexico. W2AJR, Andy, Cheektowaga, New York. KD3ATQ, Jim, Easton, PA. WA2UUS, Joel, Buffalo, New York. KK4SED, Les, Claremont, Florida. KA8BYU, Roy, Blaisdell, New York. K4EDS, Gill, Orlando, Florida. And top of the list, KD2JPP, Bob, Gatlin, Tennessee. Good evening, Bob, and have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
I have not fooled around with homebrew antennas. I'm in no. Hope everybody stays safe. Has a great week, and we'll send it right back to net control.
Thank you, sir. We got your answer, no, and have a wonderful evening. Let's move on to Gil, Orlando, Florida, K4GDS. Good evening, Gil. We didn't lose you again, did we? K4GDS, you there? Well, he knows where we're at. He'll find us again. Let's move on to Roy, Blaisdell, New York. KA8BYU. Good evening, Roy. And homebrewed any antennas?
Yes. I've gotten dipoles. I've gotten quarter waves with SO239 connectors and coat hangers for 220 and 440. I've built one of those tape measure Yagis and all that, so, oh yeah, lots of them over the years. KA8BYU.
It sounds like it, Roy. Thanks for joining us, my friend, and have a great evening. Let's move on to Les, Claremont. KK4SED. Good evening, Les.
Yeah, we made a lot of them. KK4SED, back to net.
Oh, sorry about that, Les. I didn't get your answer. Just caught the very end of that.
It's mine. I'm switching things over here in the shack here. But yes, when I was with the Civil Air Patrol, it was a requirement that we had then, way back then. So KK4 SED, back to net.
Oh, much better that time. Great audio. Thanks for joining us, and we got you down. Let's move on to Joel, Buffalo, New York, WA2UUS. How about it, Joel? Have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
Good evening, Roger, and everyone else on the net tonight. I guess I've mentioned it before. I have a 15-meter dipole I put in about 40 years ago, and it's still working very fine up in the attic for HF. I wish everyone a nice week ahead. Be well and be safe. Thanks, Roger, and thank you, Vicki.
Well, thank you for joining us, and that's awesome. It's still working. Yeah, I didn't have the patience. I pretty much had to call 1-800-AMAZON, get one. I needed to talk and talk fast. Let's move on to Jim, Easton, PA. KD3ATQ. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Roger, Vicki, Dick, and the rest of the net. Other than stringing a long wire for shortwave listening, that's it. Nothing really for amateur radio yet. Back to net control, KD3ATQ.
Thanks for joining us this evening, Jim. You have a good evening. Let's move on to Andy in Cheektowaga, New York, W2AJR. Good evening, Andy. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
Good evening, Roger. Everybody in that? Oh, yeah, bunches. I've got a 6-meter J-pole wire that's made from coax. I've got, an end-fed random wire that's 9-to-1 unknown that I want myself. I got a 240-foot off-center fed doublet. That's homebrew. So, I got quite a few. I love tinkering with wire. Thank you. 7-3, everybody.
And 1 or 2 of those have made it to the 20-meter net. Thanks, Andy. You have a great evening. Move on to Bill Hobbs, New Mexico, KI5PMI. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Roger, everybody on the net. Yes, I have done a homebrew. It was a double bazooka, 40 meters. So I hope everybody has a good evening. KI5PMI, back to net.
Thanks for joining us, Bill. And I haven't heard anybody homebrew a hex beam yet. Let's move on to Randy. Maybe he has. West Seneca, New York. W2RBC in the house.
Good evening, Roger, Vicky, and everyone on the TechNet. Yes, I've built many antennas, both professionally and for amateur radio use. I've lost track of how many during my engineering career, though. Back to net control, 73 to all, W2, RBC.
QSL, my friend. Yeah, I knew your answer pretty much. Thanks, and have a great evening. That's it for the text check-ins. Now we're going to move on to the radio check-ins. Mobile and radio. Anybody, anywhere wants to come in, join our question of the evening. This is Roger, KO4QMM in Central Florida.
KD2VNU, KD2VNU.
KO4FRR, KO4FRR.
VK3 Alpha Whiskey Alpha.
Well, son of a gun, they're not lining up to come in and answer the question of the evening. Oh, you ain't got nothing better to do. Come in and just answer our questions. We got from the bottom up, VK3AWA, Daryl, Australia, KO4FRR, Joe, Sorrento, Florida, KD2VNU, Derby, Dan, and Derby, New York. Anybody else like to join us, answer the question of the evening? Come with your call sign.
N6QDY, N6QDY.
4 Foxtrot Hotel Echo, Kilo Quebec 4 Foxtrot Hotel Echo.
All right, we'll go with that. Not a real big group, but anybody that wants to text in, the text number is 716-317-9050. 716-317-9050. And at the bottom of the list there, we got KQ4FAG, Pat, Harvest, Alabama, N6QDY, David, Sacramento, California, and I already mentioned Daryl. Let's go to the top of the list, KD2VNU, Derby, Dan from Derby, New York. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna? Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Roger. Good evening, everybody on the net this evening. Yes, I've taken chassis mount SO239s and made a 2-meter ground plane, a 70-centimeter ground plane, and a VHF low band for the scanner. Back when I was listening to scanners is how I started out in the hobby. KD2 and you, return it back to the net. Thanks for having me.
I bet it was a lot of fun listening in on them scanners after building the antennas. Thanks for joining us, Dan. Have a great evening. Let's move on to my buddy Joe, Sorrento, Florida, KO4FRR. Good evening, Joe.
Well, good evening, Roger. This is Joe, KO4FRR. I probably did a few of them. Like when I was a kid, I was trying to extend a signal. Had like a 101 project, electronic project, and I was trying to extend the radio frequency from my bedroom to the living room. And also created my own little, no weather satellite receiver, stuff like that. But yes, I have done it. This is Joe, KO4FR. Back to you, Roger.
And I don't doubt it at all, my friend. You're always experimenting, and that's what makes you good. Thanks, Joe, for joining us. Let's move on to Daryl, Paradise Beach, Australia, and also hanging out in the Zoom room. VK3AWA. Good evening, Daryl.
Good evening, Roger. And those listening, yes, I have too many to mention over the years. I started building antennas in 1970, which is a long time ago, and I'm still building them. I'll get one right one day. Thanks, Roger. Back to you.
I believe you're a pretty meticulous guy. I'm pretty sure you've gotten them right. Thanks for joining us, Daryl. Let's move on to David, Sacramento, California, N6QDY. Good evening, David.
Hey, good evening, Roger, Vicky, everybody on the TechNet and in the Zoom control room, N6QDY. Yes, I have. Primarily quarter wave for all the different bands, including 220. But, yeah, yes, I have. Hey, thanks for doing what you do. Back to you. Everybody have a good evening. N6QDY.
For joining us. It's always fun for me to get in here and have many QSOs. Have a great evening. Let's move on to Pat, Harvest, Alabama, KQ4FHE. Good evening, Pat. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
Yeah, good evening, Roger, and everybody else on the net. This is KQ4FHE. Yeah, 45 years ago, I built a two-element quad. It worked on 10, 15, and 20 meters. I used cane fishing poles for spreaders. Here just recently, I built a 71-foot long wire dipole. So I built a couple antennas in my past. 73 to everybody. Good night. KQ4FHE clear.
Wow, that's pretty smart. Cane poles and spreaders. That worked pretty good. Thanks for joining us this evening. And at the end of that list, now we're going to go into a free-for-all. This is KO4QMM. You are listening to the East Coast Reflector Tuesday Night TechNet. Our question is, have you ever homebrewed an antenna? Easy question to come in, join us. Any in and outs, mobiles, whatever you got. Come with your call sign, try to spread it out twice and slow.
Control?
is K04YJA. Brandon tonight, QTH, Huntsville, Alabama. Quebec 4, Romeo Whiskey November, Huntsville, Alabama, in and out. It's Kilo, Quebec 4, Romeo Whiskey November, Huntsville, Alabama, in and out. Name is Kevin. Anybody anywhere taking check-ins for the East Coast Reflector TechNet? Anybody anywhere?
N2BH. N2BH. W2BL2.
AP, Kilo 2, Alpha Papa.
November 3, Tango Juliet Kilo. November 3, Tango Juliet Kilo. Tim in Pasadena, Maryland, in and out.
All right. Bottom of the list there, Timothy, Maryland, N3TJK. Thanks for joining us. And we got K2AP, Slip, New York. WLT, my buddy Scott, Buffalo, New York. N2BH, Bill, Palmyra, New York, one of our facilitators. And I think I already mentioned, no, KQ4RWN. I think Kevin was in and out. I'm pretty sure he said in and out. If not, we'll call you anyhow, see if you show up. Top of the list, via text line, KF0SYB, Galen, Woodbine, Iowa. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna, Galen?
Yes, I have. Many years ago, back when I was a youngster, I built a radio antenna out of clothes hangers and aluminum foil. It worked pretty good, actually. And so thank you for picking me up. KF0SYV, back to the net.
Well, thanks for joining us. Give me somebody to talk to. Have a great evening, Galen. Let's move on to Robert, Huntsville, Alabama, N4WGY. Good evening, Robert. Maybe he was the one that was in and out. We'll try again, N4WGY. Alrighty, we'll move on to Kevin, Huntsville, Alabama. KQ4RWN. You there, Kevin? RWN, Huntsville, Alabama. Kevin here. How you doing, Net Control and everybody out there? And for the question, have I homebrewed an antenna yet? No, but I have played around with, sort of like ladder line wire hooked to the, with wire going to the side and insulator in the middle and playing around with like ladder line, but nothing really major or anything, nothing that I can say actually, just playing around. But, sort of and not sort of. I mean, nothing I could really claim was really a good-looking antenna. Thanks for coming back, Kevin. Sound good and appreciate you joining us tonight.
Let's move on to my buddy Bill and 2BH. I don't know why I call you a facilitator and not a net controller. Sounds like you're in the faculty of a high school or something. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Roger. I've been called worse. No, I haven't done that yet. I'm kind of like you. I just call up and have it delivered. Have the 2BH.
Right? I've only been doing this a short time. I don't have the patience, and let the professionals do it. Thanks for joining us, Bill. Have a great night. And another net controller, Scott from Buffalo, New York, W2BLT. Good evening, Scott.
Hey, good evening, Roger and everybody on the net. Yeah, I homebrewed a couple antennas. I did a coat hanger antenna for my television, and it works very well. It was fun to make, and I fashioned an antenna for my shortwave radio when I was camping. Used to string it up from tree to tree, and I actually center fed it off of there right to the picnic table. So, yep, I have. Everybody have a great evening. This is W2BLT.
I like that antenna, that wire you throw out your window and talk 20 meter net. That's the awesome one there. Thanks for joining us, Scott. Have a great evening. Let's move on to Joe, East Islip, New York, K2AP. Good evening, Joe. And have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
Hi, this is Joe, K2AP. Yes, I built several, mostly dipoles, and I think I did a J-pole at one time for 2 meters, but I'm not sure for what. It had a dead short, and I think I did resolve it and get it to work, but I don't remember. But I have built several, as we go along. And right now I have a G5RV up, which is really, it's been modified so much that I guess you could almost call that a homebrew too. So that's the story over here, K2AP, back to net.
Well, thanks for the story, Joe, and you have a wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us. This is KO4QMM with the East Coast Reflector. Almost said 20 meter net, but this is a Tuesday night tech net. Start slipping when it gets this late. Anybody anywhere like to join in to answer the question of the evening? Come with your call sign.
And 1YKT. And 1YKT.
I got N1YKT, Johnny from Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I thought I heard a couple others in there. Come with your call sign, twice and slow.
Controls, Kilo, Oscar 4, Yankee, Juliet Alpha. Kilo, Oscar 4, Yankee, Juliet Alpha. Brandon, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama tonight.
KE2FTG, KE2FTG, Mike in the Hudson Valley of New York.
Kilo 8 November Radio. This is Neil in Buchanan, West Virginia.
Kilo Echo 2, Alpha Mike Yankee. Kilo Echo 2, Alpha Mike Yankee. Frank here in Southern New York.
Kilo 2, Charlie Mike Tango. K2, CMT.
There we go, that's getting there. Let me see from the bottom up. K2CMT, Mike, DeBerry, Florida, KE2AMY, Selden, New York, KANR, Neil, Buckingham, West Virginia, KO4YJA, William. I think he said you're in Alabama right now, but from North Carolina. KE2FTG, Mike, Cornwall, New York, and I already mentioned John Hopkinsville, Kentucky, N1AT. Good evening, Johnny, and have you ever home-brewed an antenna?
Oh, man, good evening, everyone. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. N1YKT.
You're having too much fun there, Johnny. Have a good evening. Nice to see you in the Zoom room there. Let's move on to Mike, Cornwall, New York. KE2FTG. Good evening, Mike.
Hi, everybody. KE2FTG. Good evening to all on the net. I sure did 50, 60 years ago with my dad's Halicrafters shortwave, a long wire, random wire out the bedroom window to a far-flung tree. So the answer is yes. More recently, I'm working on an end-fed half-wave, 10 to 80, and although I bought it, it just as well could have been home-brewed because, I'm spending half the time up in the trees. Anyway, that's my story. Back to you, Net Control.
Oh, those are those far-flung trees. Far-flung trees. I got you. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. Let's move on to William. KO4YJA. Good evening.
Yes, sir, Roger, and I appreciate you running the net tonight. And yeah, I'm outside of my normal QTH. I'm in the Huntsville, Alabama area. I got some training going on this week for work. But yeah, I've made plenty of antennas. I'm a cheapo guy. I don't like spending money. So the first antenna I built was a quarter wave Yagi for 2 meters. Built that on actual yardstick, I believe it was. And I used fence wire, and I put it in the clamp and would take a hammer and beat it straight, and then that was what I used for my elements. Kind of neat how I did that, but it worked out. And I made a few contacts, moved on to HF, and I've built my own one-to-one Ballon fan dipole, 80, 40, and 20 meters. And I get on that quite often back when I'm at my regular QTH. Or I can remote in. I enjoy doing that too, using RC4. Other than that, good to hear everybody on the net. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Roger. This is KO4YJA. Thank you. 7-3.
QSL, thanks for joining us, my friend. And would you rather be called Bill or William?
Roger, I go by Brandon. That's normally what I go by. And I've checked into the net here before, but it's been a minute. I've checked in through East Coast Reflector, I think through DMR. So, but anyway, yeah, I go by Brandon. We'll talk to you later. Back over to Net Control, KO4YJ.
Well, thanks, Brandon. I think we got that straightened out. You got that in your nickname now. Vicky put it in there, so that'll probably be in there all the time. Thanks for joining. Yep, that's Nita's antennas. I was wondering if there was this nice lady that checks in the 20-meter net from New York, and she built her own antenna. She's kind of new into the hobby, and she said she spent $3 on it. And I've talked to her like twice on the 20-meter net. So that's pretty cool. Those are things like that you just remember. And thanks for joining us again. Let's move on to Neil in West Virginia, K8NR. How about it, Neil? Have you ever home-brewed an antenna?
Good evening. Yes, I did. One of the first ones I made years ago that I always remember because it was so much fun was I made a 4-element cubic quad beam for 2 meters. And I made it out of, I think, number 2 electric wire and strips of pine wood and varnished the wood. And I liked it so well, I made a second one and I co-phased 2 of them together. They worked really good. The only problem I had was birds landing on them, and sometimes they would fold an element over or so. So I used them for a while. I got, for maybe a year or so, but they kept having trouble with the elements folding over a little bit. It was a lot of fun, and it was a good project. Hey, thanks for the question. Everyone have a good evening. Kilo 8 November Romeo.
Yeah, I haven't seen them too much. It sounds like a complicated build there, especially when you're doing a beam. Thanks for joining us there, Neil. Have a wonderful evening. Let's move on to Frank, Sells, New York, KE2AMY. Good evening, Frank.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gents. Thank you. Yes, definitely. I really very much enjoy my own. Thankfully, my wife is patient with what I've constructed and the monstrosity I've put around the property, I'd say. But my favorite definitely is the 80-meter multi-band end. And recently, I just put up a 80-meter full-wave loop antenna around the property. As you can imagine, that one really excited my wife. But she's patient, and I'm loving it. It's a great. That's one of my favorites, actually. But yeah, I've done the whole gamut: dipoles, J-pole, log antenna. Not bad for just receive only. But yeah, my next venture is the hex beam, but that's going to take a lot, and probably I'll have to buy a gift or two for my wife to bear with that monstrosity next. This is KE2AMY, back at control.
Very smart, Frank. And my way I got around it is I got a portable hex beam. Took me a while to find it, and not that cheap, but that was my way of getting a hex beam up that's not mounted there forever. But it's been up for a month now, and I love it. Thanks for joining us. Let's move on to Mike, K2CMT. He's been part of the East Coast Reflector administration for many years. Good evening, Mike. Have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
I have done several. Started off with VHF and UHF verifications, mostly J-poles. Excuse me. Mike up there in Cornwall, New York, and I have a lot in common because the latest been fed, and I've been in the trees, and I've been up the ladders, and I'll still be doing that probably until I get it fine-tuned. But everyone have a good evening here on the East Coast Reflector. We all glad to have you.
Oh, it's been fun watching you mess around with that HF, and it has gotten better and better and better as you go. And I'm sure you're learning a lot there. How'd you like that administration? I put you right up there on top. Almost sounds like you got to go to the doctor for that. But have a great evening there, Mike. Thanks for joining us. K2CMT. This is KO4QMM, Roger, in Umatilla, Florida. And anybody anywhere would like to get in tonight, answer our question of the evening, come with your call sign.
Free, take guys.
This is 9Y4DX, 9 Yankee 4, Delta X-ray group.
All right, we got my buddy Bertrand from Trinidad and Tobago, 9Y4DX. And we got Peter from New Zealand, NL3TKZ. Anybody else like to join us this evening? Kilo India 5, Tango Lima X-ray. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting down to the last call here. Last call to get into the East Coast Reflector. Tuesday night TechNet, answer the question. Tell me your call sign. Kilo India 5, Tango Lima X-ray. November 9, Kilo India Whiskey. Mike 7, Alpha Uniform India. Yeah, sorry about that, Kenneth. I didn't recognize you while you were there. Houston, Texas, KI5TLX. And we got N9KIW, Chip from Darby, PA. And not sure if this one's right or not. KM7AUI. Is that correct? That is correct. Chris at Newburgh, Oregon. All right, we'll go with this little short list here, and maybe I will call again. Let's go to the top there. Peter, ZL3TKZ from New Zealand. Good afternoon there, my friend, and have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
Yeah, fine there. Yeah, very interesting listening to you guys. Yeah, up there, this time of the moon. Yeah, I have my latest antenna is a 30-meter antenna with more or less just a half-wave inverted V, because we've just received we can actually transmit on 30 meters now, sideband. So that was my last antenna I've built. Built many over the years. Here we go. I'll listen on the side. Very interesting. ZL3TKZ.
Antenna questions seem to be always interesting. See what people got out there, what they do, what they build. Thanks for joining us from New Zealand, Peter. Great audio, and have a great afternoon and evening. Let's move on to my buddy Bertrand. I always do that. 9Y4DX from Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening, Bertrand.
Well, pleasant evening to you, Net Control. KO4QMM, Roger. This is 9Y4DX Bertrand, and my location, Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Let me say a pleasant evening to all of the stations and the East Coast Reflector TechNet this evening. Hope everyone is doing well. Well, I noticed the time it has been adjusted, and it's a bit later here than it is over there. But I'm still here, and I'm hoping to keep up with the time. With respect to the net, to the question, yes, I have built my own antenna, and not too long ago I had to take down one and put back another. So, yes, the answer is yes. That's it from me. Back to you, Net Control. KO4QMN. This is 9Y4.
Always a joy, Bertrand. You have a wonderful evening, and 7-3. Let's move on. Kenneth, Texas, KI5TLX. Good evening, Kenneth, and have you ever homebrewed an antenna? Giving you a little time there in case your radio was IDing. Kenneth, K5TLX. Now my radio's IDing. Alright, thanks for joining us there, Kenneth. Let's move on to Chip, Upper Darby, PA. N9KIW. Good evening, Chip. Well, good evening to everyone on the net. And yeah, I was just thinking about the East Coast Reflector and completely forgotten about the net. So glad I tuned over here. You know, I have never homebrewed an antenna. I thought about it. I've always had commercial antennas of one type or another. But they've all worked well, fortunately. And certainly hear a lot of hands out there who do well homebrew antennas, and you know, especially if you do wire antennas, they don't have to be that expensive. So there you go. Anyway, it's a nice day here, sunny weather, and temperatures were up in the low 60s. I think we're supposed to be up around 63 or so tomorrow, so can't complain about that for November. Anyway, I'll turn it back to Net. Everybody have a great evening. This is November 9, Kilo Whiskey. Thanks for joining us, Chip. And yeah, that's what the Godfather always says at the East Coast Reflector. Throw a wire out, talk to the world. Thanks again for joining us. Let's go on to the bottom of the list here to Chris, Newburgh, Oregon, KM7AUI. Good evening, Chris. Evening, next control, KM7AUI. Yeah, I've made a few simple dipole antennas. Nothing, you know, special, but all had good results. I was a radio operator back in the Marine Corps, back in like the late 90s to early 2000s, and I've set up a ton of radios and antennas. Just was really happy to get back into this hobby 20 years later and just know what to do. But yeah, simple dipole. Can't go wrong with the dipole. Many of them out there, and they really sound good. Thanks for joining us, Chris. Have a wonderful evening. That's it for the bottom of the list, and I guess I'll throw one more out there for anybody anywhere. Some of them Californians that might be finishing up dinner and want to join us. Answer the question of the evening. This is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida. Have you ever home brewed an antenna? Come with your call sign if you'd like to join in. KG7GBL. KG7GBL.
Alpha 5 Echo Tango Sierra.
VOC. Kilo 7, November Yankee Charlie, KK7 NYC.
Romeo India, Whiskey Tango Romeo India 3 from Reflector.
Alright, that ought to take us to the exit door. From the bottom up, W5TRI, Richmond, Texas, try. KK7NYC, Doug, Fairview, Oregon. VU3VOC, Raj, India. That's about the best I can do there for you. And KE7TJB, Larry in Rogue River, Oregon. KE7TGB, good evening, Larry, and have you ever home brewed an antenna?
Did I get your call sign right there? KE7TJB. TG. KG7GBI. One more time and do it twice. Say it twice, please. George 7, George Ben Lincoln. It's KG7GBL in Portland. Mr. George, Portland, Oregon. KG7GBL. Good evening, George. Home brewed an antenna. Not me. Not yet. Give me time. Something to look forward to, George. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for getting in there. Let's move on to my, what's that? I already did George. VU3 VOC Raj in India. Good evening, Raj.
Good evening, Roger. Good evening to all on the net. Well, it's a fine morning here in India. I'm located in the southern part of India, in the state of Kerala. And yes, I have built a couple of antennas because we don't get commercially built antennas here. To begin with, it was a wire dipole around 30 years back. And I think that was when I was in Bahrain as A92GK. And here in India, I think the last antenna that I built was a Cobb web antenna. And I have built a home-brewed X-beam as well. My only point is whenever you build an antenna analyzer is a must because you never know where the SWR lies. So the other challenge was building an antenna for satellite communications with the VO52 satellite, which is now a silent key on 2 meters and 70 centimeters. Well, that's all. So I do enjoy building antennas. It's been a very fine net, I guess, Roger. Thank you very much. This is VU3 VOC from India. Over.
Thanks for joining us, Raj, man. And the audio is really great for, coming across the other side of the planet there. It just it astounds me how good the audio is. Thank you again. Let's move on to Doug, Fairview, Oregon, KK7NYC. Good evening, Doug.
Good evening, and thanks for doing it tonight. And no, I haven't quite got into it, but I have the parts. I just have to get busy and do it. Thanks again, like I said, for doing the net, KK7NYC.
Thanks, Doug. No problem. I'm enjoying it. Let's move on to Richmond, Texas. W5TRI, the bottom of the East Coast Reflector Tuesday night tech net. Good evening, and have you ever homebrewed an antenna?
Good evening, Roger. This is about a year ago. Yes, I built one with a long random wire that's for multi-band, like 10, 15 so on. So I'm not very good at it, but it works, so I'm pretty happy about it. So looking forward to building more. Back to net control.
Little scratchy there, my friend, but we got you. And thank you for joining us this evening, along with everybody else out there that joined in. We really appreciate it. On behalf of Dick, WB2JPQ, and Vicky, doing a great job of logging tonight, KE8BKY, and I guess myself, KO4QMM Roger in Central Florida, Umatilla to be exact. Thanks, everybody, and this frequency
to normal amateur use. 7-3!
Net Control, I know you're done taking check-ins, but if you could respectfully add me just as a check-in, I'd certainly appreciate it. This is November Juliet 1 Sierra, NJ 1 Sierra, Eric in Vermont. I'd like to just be on the list as a check-in only. Did I not make it into the net, or not net, but the system, NJ1 Sierra?
This is Victor Kilo 5, Charlie Foxtrot Whiskey, VK5 CFW.
I hope everybody has a great evening. This is KO4QMM Clear.
Vicky, if you can copy me, if you could at least log me in to the net, I'd certainly appreciate it under the one call zone as a check-in only, NJ1S portable. Thank you, and 7-3.